Episode 6, Gym Guys Podcast. Who would ever have known? Here we are with the 6th episode, and we're just really blessed enough to get prestigious guests and, of course, my prestigious co-hosts. I'm a co-host too, between J-Dog, VP of Development of Product Development over at Animal, Eric Schwartz, a man of many talents and projects and entrepreneurship, and honored to have Vinny Galanti on our show, 2022 Masters Daytona Pro winner. Probably the definition, if you're coming from somebody like me as a fan, the definition of fortitude and longevity and grit. This guy's career and the amount of times he's competed and how well he's done with all the times that he's competed it's a book. It's amazing. So honored to have you on, Vinny, and always great to be with my friends and my co-hosts, Jay and Eric.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we're pumped to have you on here. Vinny is a living legend, and we work together, Jason and I, with Vinny, as Vinny was a sponsored athlete with Universal. We're going to get into that because Vinny holds a record in the industry, which is pretty crazy, about being sponsored the longest. But real quick, I'm going to tell a real quick backstory of when I originally saw Vinny. We didn't really know each other, but so there was a contest in Staten Island, 1991, Richmond County Classic, and I competed in it, and I only did it because Lee Haney was guest posing, and I really wanted to meet Lee Haney. He's my favorite bodybuilder. So I figured if I compete, I'll be guaranteed to meet him backstage. So I'm there at the show, and everybody's getting ready, prejudging, and there's a guy posing backstage, and it's Vinny. And I thought he was another guest poser. This is like how far ahead of everybody else he was. And Vinny was competing, and he won the whole show. But thought that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I remember that contest, meeting Lee Haney. That was a trip. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's such a great dude, great guy, great ambassador for the sport.
Oh, yeah.
And that was right in his prime, like just before he retired, before he did the 91 Olympia and retired and stuff. So we got to see him like at his biggest and best.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So Vin, you are a legend. You've been in this sport and industry for a long, long time. You said you started competing in 1984.
Yes.
And you're still at it today, which is amazing because if you think of how many people have got into it and stopped competing, unfortunately, some people have died, guys have gotten injured, whatever. Yeah. And you've just like continued to go, and you've had your ups and downs too. And I mean, you've had many injuries. And if you want to get into that, you can tell us about that too, because I know You've overcome many injuries. But just, it's amazing to do it this long, to be that healthy and that consistent. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on, not that there's a secret to longevity, but what have you done that's allowed you or psychologically to do this on that consistent basis?
So, I never thought it was something I was doing that was going to have me have consistency, or longevity, I should say. I read this article. I can't tell you how long ago it was. It was had to be in one of the Flex or Muscle Fitness magazines with about Franco Columbu, and I think it was like every 8 or 12 weeks he would take 1 week off. And where I learned training at Billy's Gym in Bayonne, New Jersey, I just learned from a group of guys that were pretty stress-free. Guys were just really chill about how they approach training. And that's been something that's been in my back pocket for all these years, where I don't wig out. I don't get stressed when I take weeks off. Like I take a week off or take 2 weeks off. Like I know it's part of the plan. It's part of the program. So now it's crept up on me after all these years that's probably one of the reasons why I've had longevity. Also too, like I don't get stressed out or get nervous in the off season if I get a little fun fat, as I call it. Like if I relax and the mind needs downtime too. You can only be Superman for so long. Sometimes you got to be Clark Kent, as they say. So over the almost 40 years, I've been able to have that balance where I will be a lunatic for 12 to 16 weeks, and then I will completely back off. Like, I'll just turn the switch off for a good month. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy when you're in that kind of training mode and you're just hammering away and you're going to shut it off. That's a hard thing to do. So I usually go about a week or two after a contest, and then I start to slow down. And then I eventually take a couple of weeks off from the gym right after a show. I actually got that idea many years ago from hearing Guy Cicerino talk about Lee Haney. I'm sorry, Ronnie Coleman, and those guys taking, like, I think a month off or 2 months off after the Olympia. I wouldn't go that. I personally never went that far. I would probably go 2 weeks, but we're going back like quite a number of years now that I've been doing that. That's one of them, and just changing my workouts all the time. I always said, I've always had this motto. It's what you're not doing is what you should be doing. So after I usually take a week off from the gym, I start a whole new program. I start a whole new training thing. And I also, as far as long as I've been in the sport, I'm not really nervous or scared to pick anyone's brain. Like, there's a lot of times when I'm picking somebody's brain and they think I know nothing because they don't realize what I've accomplished. And I just humbly ask them a question because they might be better than me at something. And I have no problems with that. A lot of guys in the industry, I know I've heard behind my back think, what the hell's going on with Vinny? Why is he asking this idiot how to squat? I'm like, well, because I saw him do it a unique way, and I want to ask him why he does it that way. And I don't have that kind of competitively. I do to other guys, but when I see people in the gym training, if I think it's completely wrong, I'll approach them. But if I think it's completely unique and I think it could add benefit to my own training, I'll talk to them too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like bite your lip sometimes, right? And not say anything when you could do something positive for somebody and recommend a different movement or a different angle or how they should train, or you don't want to see them go through some wear and tear that maybe and experienced and right. I mean, we've all seen it before in the gym. It gets I kind of tend to mind my own business. The few times I've done it, maybe it was well received, and other times it wasn't.
Yeah, I try to have my approach a genuine approach when I come up to somebody, but like the guys I know in my gym that I work in, they all know that if I'm coming up to them, I'm going to give them a good tip. I'm not going to lead them in the wrong direction.
Sure.
I'm always curious what motivates people to get into this sport or start lifting weights. So Vinny, what was the impetus way back when that got you to first start picking up weights and going to the gym?
It's not what it is today, obviously, but honestly, to be honest with you, so this is how it all happened. I grew up in Jersey City. There were these two girls who were twins, and they trained and got into this conversation about competing in bodybuilding because they did it. And I think they were maybe 19 or 18, and I was about 15. And in Jersey City, there was 12 different high schools. So on any given weekend, you can have one street corner filled with, back in the 80s and 90s, you can have one street corner filled with kids you've never seen in your life before, but they live 10 blocks away because they go to another high school. So these two girls were on the corner and we were talking about bodybuilding. And I just said to them, I could do that. I could be a bodybuilder. And they're like, no, you can't. You haven't even lifted a weight yet. I'm like, I know, but my body is meant for bodybuilding. And I have no idea why I said that.
Were you trying to pick these girls up?
No, not at all. I wasn't. And ironically, Billy Schultz, who was the gym of Billy's gym, his uncle lived next door to me. And then that's all how that happened, because they would see me in the summer with the garage open my father had bought me a weight set. And then one day, I think you remember those little red clamps that would go on the sleeve?
The metal
and you had a
collar.
little metal thing and you had to twist it.
Yeah.
So I was doing flies one day and it fell off and it fell on my face.
Oof.
Right. I had to get stitches. And my father was like, that's it. It's out. And he replaced it with a Solo Flex machine.
Yeah.
And I felt like my whole world came down,
Wow.
rushing down on me. You know, it went from weights to a solo, these bands. So I was training on that for a little while when I was about like between 13, 14 years old. And a couple of my friends
young. That's very young to start.
Yeah, just exercise. My father was into health, and he would make salads and he would juice fruits and vegetables.
Oh, wow.
He had his big contraption that he put on the counter. And my mother would yell all the time because it took up too much space and, you know, all of that. And, you know, that was my first introduction to getting into some sort of health field, you know, back in like 81, 82, right. 83, around that time.
So as you start training, as you're young, like there had to be a point where you started to see pretty good, decent development where you thought you could really like be competitive, right?
Yeah, you know,
that happened early. We
never knew. We didn't know what we know today with nutrition. Kids learning so much faster, and it's great. More information today. We had, you know, whatever magazine was on the counter at the gym, or whatever my father would bring home. And if you were in the gym, you had maybe literally probably only 2 or 3 guys you could talk to, and that had some kind of experience. So your knowledge was kind of limited on who you could pick somebody's brain with. I remember going to Billy's. Actually, I went to karate first. I was doing karate with my friend Dino for about a year. And one day I just walk out and I see Billy's gym. And I'm like, Dino, when did that get there? He's like, what are you talking about? It's been there every day when we leave here. I'm like, it is. I don't know how I missed that. I walked across the street. I opened the door, and you guys know exactly what I'm going to say right now. The smell of the iron and the rubber, completely addicted right off the bat, right? And I never looked back. And, you know, I had to lie and tell him, I think I had to tell him I was 18 years old, because back then, the gyms were closed on Sundays. Nobody trained on Sunday. That was a day off. Most people trained Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, the women would go, and sometimes Saturdays. And that was the schedule.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was the schedule. Until one day, I remember they said, yeah, we're making an announcement. The gym is going to be completely co-ed 7 days a week, and it's going to be open on Sunday.
Wow.
And
wow.
I remember the guys were like, what? This is going to suck.
You didn't want to work out with pretty girls around? Or?
It was a different mindset.
The complete opposite of today.
Because guys went to the gym to train. You know, they went to train. It wasn't a place to meet their wife or girlfriend. It wasn't that like that.
Yeah.
And Vinny, that was pretty much not just Billy's gym, but that would be any gym at that time? Is that how it was, where men would go certain days, women different days?
I can't honestly tell you, because I was young and I didn't go to any other gym.
Gotcha.
I didn't know, but that was at Billy's.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
When did you get the competition bug? Like, so based on your timeline,
The second I opened up the door at Billy's.
that was it.
Yeah. So these guys, they allowed me to come in and train, and I worked out probably from the end of the summer of '83, and they said to me, "Hey, you want to train for this contest? It's the gym show. It's the Mr. Hudson County. Billy's putting it on, and it's in February." I'm like, "Sure. What do I got to do?" They're like, "Just keep doing what you're doing. Eat some fish, and what I don't know what." And I remember going to McDonald's, eating fish fillet sandwiches.
No.
I didn't know any better.
No.
God almighty.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I read somewhere, I think one of my sisters told me that cottage cheese was healthy. So I had cottage cheese with pineapples in it. That was my first diet. McDonald's
Wow.
fish fillet sandwiches and pineapple
Wow.
cottage cheese. Yep. True story. And
I think Fact Mubarak still posts that on his Instagram page. He's a big cottage cheese fan. I remember. Yeah, fucker. Yeah.
So since this show is, we talk supplements a lot since we're in the supplement industry. What was the first supplement that you ever took?
Wow. I recall having a lot of Joe Weider stuff on the counter, and oh my God, those things were disgusting. They smelled really bad. And, my mother in Italian would curse at me and tell me that, I had to get rid of this stuff. And, we had the typical Italian house where you had, this nice kitchen upstairs, and then you had a kitchen downstairs, right? So I remember my father saying, "We never use this kitchen down here.
Yeah,
Give it to him." So yeah, I took up the whole entire kitchen downstairs. I set up shop, and I was like a little bachelor at 17 in my own house, and I just the supplements really wreaked havoc in smell back then. They weren't good. There wasn't like
yeah.
And I remember Muscle Builder by Joe Weider.
Dynamic Muscle Builder. That was a
Dynamic
protein
Muscle
powder.
Builder, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember I think the only flavor that was kind of edible was vanilla. The rest of it was disgusting. And then one of the other things that I did was Twin Labs had this jug. I don't remember the name of it. It was aminos, and they had all different flavors. And I would measure it out. I would pour like 100 grams of these aminos into my gallon of water. I'm thinking I need my aminos all day. So I would just drink my aminos that way all day long with my gallon of water. And I was doing that at like 17, 18 years old. I would walk up to Journal Square where there's a vitamin store. And they the guys started to know me pretty quickly, and they all thought I was nuts. And like, this kid is crazy, he's bonkers. And I would eat, what was that? Tofu. I would eat a lot of tofu.
Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because I didn't look at it as it was disgusting. I looked at it as it was a means to put muscle on.
Right.
And at the time, it was something I could afford. And I remember, like, I would get a block of tofu and I would cut it in 4 and I would eat that throughout the day.
Wow.
And I don't remember the timeline when I did that, but I was pretty young when I did that.
He was boosting his estrogen levels during that time point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the very first supplements was, do you remember, he's from New Jersey. It was a guy from South Jersey. He had an ad in the magazines, something like a barbarian guy.
Not Russian Bear?
Russian Bear, yeah.
Russian Bear, wow.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was, but I took.
I think that was a weight gainer, I think, or I know it was protein in it, but
yeah, I think it was like an all-in-one kind of powder.
Yeah, almost like a hot stuff before there was hot stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, hot stuff, right? Yeah.
I don't know if you guys. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to mention. So speaking of Weider supplements, back in the day, when I was in high school, they had. He had chewable versions of his powders. So Dynamic Muscle Builder, he had his big weight gainer chewable, and I was a super skinny kid. And so I got these big chewables to eat while I was in class in high school, and it was so dry and chalky. And I just remember trying to choke them down. They tasted terrible, but I didn't care because I would do anything to gain weight back then. Yeah.
And I remember, so I can tell you guys a really funny story. When fast forward now, 10 years later, I'm now 3 days post winning the USA. I'm in California and I do a photo shoot for Weider, and Lou Ferrigno's there because he's making his comeback for the Olympia.
Cool. That'd be 92 then, yeah.
Yeah, it was 93.
93, right.
Yeah.
So I get to talk to Lou. Now at the time, my training partner was this guy, Mark. And Mark was, I don't know, like 6'4", 280. And he was standing behind Lou Ferrigno, and you couldn't even see Mark. That's how big Lou Ferrigno was. So I'm talking to Lou, and I'm like, now you got to remember this. For anybody who's watching this that doesn't know, we didn't have meal replacements back then. There was no such thing.
Right.
You had no real good protein powders. He had real no good like concoctions to come up with. It was nothing. So I asked him, like, what do you do? And if you could just think of Lou Ferrigno's voice with his speech impediment telling me what you do is you take a can of tuna fish, you plop it in a blender. You take a banana, you take cinnamon, you take your protein powder, you take some yogurt, a little bit of water, ice, whip it up and drink it. So I couldn't wait to get back to the hotel room because I stayed at the hotel in Venice Beach, Joe Bucci's hotel.
Joe Bucci's, yes, in
Yeah.
Marina Del Rey. Hmm?
Yeah, so I was there, and it was a bunch of us. And they're like, "You're not going to try this." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'm going to try this." I blend it all up, and I'm gagging on it. I'm like, I'm gonna get used. Now I'm gonna go to the Nationals.
That's awesome. How influential, right?
Yeah, here I am. I'm a grown man. I'm 25 years old, and and my friends are like, "You're an idiot. He made that up." Yeah.
Vinny, do you remember some of the custom equipment that was there for Lou? Because I was lucky enough, I probably saw you. I trained there. I went to college there during those years, 92 to 95. And I remember they used to make like custom benches and equipment for Lou because he was so tall and big.
Yeah.
They used to have like a design for Lou Ferrigno. I think there was like a spider bench. So his arms actually could hang off the bench. It was that tall enough off the floor. And it was pretty wild. Witnessing his comeback, that was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was cool. And then, fortunately, like, Eric has mentioned earlier, I landed with Universal Nutrition for 18 years. That was really cool.
Yeah, and that's, as far as I know, no one in the industry has had a supplement contract for anywhere near that amount of time. Like, that's got to be the longest sponsorship.
Right, but Evan is still with Universal.
Yes, but all right, so it still wouldn't be 18 years. And
there was a gap, I think, right?
And he did leave. Even if you put it all together, it wouldn't have been 18 years.
In the middle of that, yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was I've always been, I've never been scared to fail in this industry. And my father was a business guy. He owned a cab company and car service. And he would always give me tips about business. And he would say, if you don't try, you'll never know. And you got to like put yourself out there. Like, you're the product, you're the main thing. So you remember Cybergenics?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were based in Jersey, right? So
They were.
I think there was the ad was some blonde guy in like a satin sheet, naked, but you could kind of tell he was naked. And he talked about the girl who just left his bedroom from the night before. And it's supposed to be the Cybergenics, got his body that way, right? So I had a set of balls. I drove down to Cybergenics. I walked in the door and told them that I'm your next athlete.
Love it.
Wow.
I did.
How'd that go?
I was asked to leave.
Was Santoriello in the lobby?
Franco was there. No. So I was asked to leave. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I go, I just won the suburban bodybuilding championships. I'm gonna be your guy. So I was asked to leave. And then when I won the US, I won the jersey in 92 and the Junior USA and then the USA in 93. And the same woman who asked me to leave had a table set up for Cybergenics. And I walked over to them and I said, hello. I was very cordial. I said, do you guys remember me? And they're like, you kind of look familiar. Did you just compete? I said, well, yeah, I just won the USA. And there was at a local show. And I said, you asked me to leave your building a couple of years ago. And they're like, oh, you're that guy. I'm like, I told you I was going to win some shows. So fast forward to 96. I don't know how I did this. I don't know. I just had a set of balls on me and I just wrote a letter to Universal and I told them that I'd like to come down and talk to them in regards to working for them. And then at the same time, Alex was at a show and I can't remember his last name right now.
Eric.
Erico, yeah.
The juggernaut.
Juggernaut. So Alex was there and he says, "Hey, I'm Alex. You're Vinny. I think you're going to come down on Monday, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to come. I'm coming down. I'm meeting with uh, Mike and this guy Phil." I'm like, "Okay." So I go down, and I remember Phil wasn't into me at all, and Mike.
Shocker.
And this is the only time. Yeah, well, we could talk about that. But it was the only time that I saw Mike have some assertiveness. Then he asked Phil to leave the meeting, and I said to Mike, and I said, "I'm your liaison between your supplements and the fans and your customers. They can't relate to Dorian Yates, but they can relate to me." And he was like, "Okay," and he signed me to a year contract.
Super smart.
And I walked out.
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, I fucking pulled this off. I can't believe it.
That's a freaking awesome story.
Yeah, I didn't even know this.
Yeah. And every year I would say, "Hey, Mike, I want to stay. I'm not going anywhere. If you can extend it for 2 years." He's like, "No, we're doing year to year." Yeah, I did year to year with them.
So you did 18 years of year to year.
Crazy.
That's
amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I learned, there was one point where I knew I had to start reinventing myself. I had a couple of hiccups along the way. I don't want to mention the guy's name, but I'll get to that in a second. But I think I was in probably year 9, and I believe they were thinking of letting me go. And that was the year, if you guys remember this a little bit more clearly, I think it was my 8th year or 9th year or 10th year that they brought the cage to the Arnold. And they had some professional MC guy calling everybody, like doing the bench your weight contest. Girls bench your half your body weight, guys bench your body weight. And I was saying, "This guy sucks." Now, if you remember, and this is getting fuzzy to me because it's a long time ago, but if I can recall, the Arnold started on a Thursday. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or if it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't remember. And whatever the first day was, nobody was coming to the cage. It wasn't that popular yet.
Right.
And I said I could do a better job than this guy. And Phil after lunch, gave me the microphone and said, "Let's see if you could do a better job." Because I think he was looking to hang me because he thought I was going to fuck up, right? So the very, very first thing I did was, I'm like, "Well, how am I going to get people into the cage?" And I started just talking like I was from Jersey. And I was like, "Oh, how you doing?" I don't remember what I said, but I just like enhanced my accent. And the very first guy to come in was Joey. I can't have a brain fart with his name.
Mazzone? Was it Mazzone?
No. He's Instagram famous. Oh my God.
Not Joey Swole, right?
Joey Swole. Yeah.
Oh,
Joey
yeah.
Swole.
Really?
So Joey
Okay.
Swole comes in,
Wow.
and we hit it off great. And he does the benching and everything. And then people started coming up. And the next morning, I don't remember who it was. They said, "Hey, you're the MC for the rest of the weekend." And then they came up with, like, they nicknamed me, like, as a joke, Vinny the Lip, or
I remember that.
I had another nickname. I can't remember what it was.
You were the
but
MC
Vinny
for
the Lip.
many years,
Yeah.
many years at the cage.
Yeah. And then I remember one year, Phil just came up to me and he's like, "I'm having this guy do it from now on." And I stood there the whole weekend, like, really with my hands in my pocket, not knowing what to do. And it was really weird. And when I got back home, my contract always was renewed the 1st of April. I don't know why it was April, but it was always April.
It's probably when you signed. We usually would do them 12 months from whenever you signed. So you probably originally signed.
Yeah. So, but because I thought it was a January thing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So they gave me for the 19th year. They gave me, "We are not giving you any more money. We're not going to pay you anything anymore. But we want the same thing. You'll go all shows." And I said, "Well, what about sponsorship? Are you going to sponsor me to a show?" Like, "No, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to pay your airfare or hotel." And I think they thought I was going to stay. I'm like, no, I can't do that. But like 3 years before that, and I'll say this here, I mean, I had a good run. I was making a little over $3,000 a month with them.
That's very good.
And there was an athlete who, I don't want to mention his name because he's no longer in, I don't even think he works out anymore. He was a really good guy, but I think his head was scrambled a little bit at the time. And I don't know why I said this. And it was like the biggest mistake I ever made in my career. And I told him how much I made. And he didn't even come close to what I ever accomplished in contests, magazine coverage, covers, magazine articles, traveling around the world, guest posing. He didn't even come close to me. And he demanded the same amount. And that bit me in the ass because Mike and Phil were like, Vin, you can't tell people what you're making. The athletes can't know. And then the next year they chopped it down by a quarter, and the next year they chopped it down by a half. And then I think by the time I was leaving, I think I was making $1,000 a month, which is great today, right? Guys don't even get that. But yeah, if I kept my mouth shut, I probably would have been there maybe 20 years, And that was one of my biggest mistakes I made in my career as far as business goes. And Phil was not a nice person. We butt heads a lot. And I would say, why do you have to talk like it? Why do you have to talk to us like we're children that don't know anything about bodybuilding, and you never have lifted a weight? And he didn't like that. Because I remember one time he ripped Alex's head open, like just ripped him apart. And it was in a car one day, and we were going to an airport. And I got out of the car and I looked at Phil. I just looked at him, and he goes, "What?" I go, "You know what?" I go, "You're disrespectful." But Mike always liked me, so I always got backed by Mike. And we never had words, but Phil knew that I wouldn't take his shit. And it's unfortunate that he dictated a lot of guys' careers at the time. So it was tension there those years with that. Yeah. But I love Universal was awesome. The crazy people we met in the cage, and all the lunatics and the fun times we had.
I was going to say, out of all that, what's your best memory or memories that you have during that time? What really stands out to you?
Well, obviously the cage, getting there on Thursdays and watching it get set up and meeting everybody and all of us. Were you guys there at that time when I held down a Chinese lady in a limo?
I think that was
Vegas,
Las Vegas,
the
right?
Olympia.
It was in Las Vegas. I said, wait, right.
Yeah.
I go, wait here. They're like, where you going? I go, just relax for a second. I came back. I go, okay, come on, guys, let's go. And this Chinese lady put us in her limo.
That was we went for sushi or something, right?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was definitely Vegas for the Olympia.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun night.
I tried to get Jason to come to the Spearmint Rhino with me, but he wouldn't go. Every year I tried.
Every year you've been trying.
I think Christian Coronado was there that night. Evan.
Big Al.
Big Al. Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Yeah. And obviously all of the ABCs and certain people that I like to tease that didn't have a sense of humor. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say it.
All right, I'm not picking up on it now. You can text it to me later. I'm not picking up.
So I just had a really good time over those 18 years. It was really
and you got to travel the world, right? For Universal, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite destination or trip that you went?
Colombia.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, for Teddy. So I remember going to Colombia, right? And the first time I went twice in 1 year. My whole family was like, it's number 3 on the rated most dangerous place in the world. Do you understand? I'm like, I'm going anyway. This is the big deal. They told me I was going to have a bodyguard. Like, no, you shouldn't be going to a place where you need a bodyguard.
Good point.
So I go, and they were having me, two crazy stories. They were having me on the air, and they were introducing me as Mr. USA. And when I was going to be at the radio station and all of that. And when I got out of the car, they were throwing, some people were throwing potatoes at me
Get out of here. White potatoes.
Yeah.
It was their way of, it's like a weapon, without being a weapon.
Potato.
Wow.
Yeah, and the guys were like, wow, they're getting creative. I'm like, holy shit, they're throwing a fucking potato at me. Yeah.
That's wild, man.
So,
Holy shit.
so we're in the car, we're driving. Now you got to picture this. This is way before cell phones. I have my little camera with me, and I'm looking around, and I'm taking it all in. And like, I see a tank, guy sitting on top of a tank with AK-47,
Wow.
and the tank is driving really slow. Then you see like police, and then another. I'm gonna really date myself now. A pickup truck, a Datsun pickup truck, which is now Nissan, right? So it's Datsun.
Yeah.
And all of these guys just with guns and everything. So I go to take pictures, and Teddy smacks the camera out of my
Oh,
hand.
wow.
He's like, no, we're not in the United States right now. What are you doing? I go, well, that's the military, and that's the police. Who's that? Because those are the guerrillas. They will take you out of the car, and I'll never see you again. I'm like, holy shit. I didn't realize where I'm like, because you read about it, you hear about it, but now it's in your face.
What part of Colombia were you in? Do you remember?
I was in Cali and Medellin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to Medellin in 2019. It felt very safe. I mean, that's a very touristy area. So
So I went pre 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before 9/11. It was the year before 9/11.
Is that where a lot of people are going for stem cell therapy? I think, right? Was that Flex Lewis was doing in that area of Colombia? Yeah.
Medellin is beautiful. They call it
the
eternal spring. Like the weather's beautiful. Like I said, it seemed very safe. And I was with Eric Ramirez, who he's a professional bodybuilder. He's from New Jersey, but he's originally from Colombia. So he was born in Cali. He grew up there. So I traveled with him. So I was definitely a lot safer with him. But it's a beautiful place, man.
Yeah, beautiful place. I've been to Paraguay, Germany, and other places I can't think of off the top of my head.
I know you went to Poland, right, with Teddy too?
Oh, that was crazy because we went with Flex Wheeler, Joe Latinier.
Oh wow.
Who's not doing well right now. He just had a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
And Evan, and it was interesting. The dynamics was crazy because Flex was just like in a real ornery mood the whole time, and I was trying to be like the mediator. Like I felt like I was playing on purpose. I was being Mr. Silly, so I would calm everybody down. And it was just like I was getting on Evan's nerves. I was pissing him off. No, seriously, I was. And I was getting stressed out because I thought Flex Wheeler was going to punch somebody in the face every 5 minutes.
Drop kick you.
That's just the way it was.
Wow.
And, I remember he wouldn't eat anything. All he wanted to do was eat McDonald's. So we had to stop and get McDonald's for him. And then, we were eating these, I don't remember what it was. I'm going to say they were pierogies. I was going to say empanadas, but they were pierogies. And Flex would not even try it because, I don't know, he was just being stubborn. So he said, on the last night, he said, I'll try these plain ones. I'm like, all right. So he ordered like a plate of 8 of them, right? And when he wasn't looking, I was taking them off his plate and replacing them with mine that had like raisins in them or like meat.
This is great.
And I remember like,
oh my God,
Flex is gonna punch me really hard. And so he eats all of them. He's like, these are good. I'm like, you ate the raisin one, you meat one. Like I gave them to you. He's like, you're a fucking asshole. What'd you do that for?
That's great.
So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that was the posse back in the day at Gold's, I think, right? It was Rico, Chris, Flex, and I think Dillette. I think those 4 used to train together all the time. And
when back in 94, 94, I was out there a while and I trained with Chris and I trained with those guys. And it was kind of cool, like, because it wasn't the way it is today where you just turn on your phone and you can see whoever's in California, you can see who's at Dragon's Lair, who's ever trained, right? So I go to California and like, and it's funny because the terms and lingo here in Jersey or East Coast, New York, completely different than those guys in California. And they're talking to me like, yeah, man, your name's been kicking it around a long time. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like we your name has been around. Like, you're so white. I think Flex, I think it was Flex or Rico was like, damn, you're so white. He goes, go back to Jersey. But I got along with all those guys, and I trained with them. Rico was great. You know, he tried to get into acting and doing all that. He's a family guy. He's a great Rico McClinton's a great guy. Always got along with him. And Chris Cormier's a great guy. They're all good guys. I mean, they all were friends, and they all won the USA and nationals and did well in the Arnold and the Olympia.
Yeah, they were definitely easy to approach. I remember that back in the day. It was nice to see the camaraderie of those guys training together, for sure.
Yeah.
Strong as anything as well. Ridiculously strong.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have the desire to move out there? Because I know kind of like back then that was kind of like the dream, right? You move out to California, live out there, the beautiful weather, Gold's Gym. Was that ever?
No, to be honest with you, no.
Interesting.
No. I because when I would do the nationals, I had set it up so I think, like I said a moment ago earlier in the podcast, I always looked at this as a business. So I don't know if you guys know the name Jason Mathis. He was a photographer.
Yeah.
And when I won the USA, the junior USA in 1992, nobody knew me. You know, nobody knew who I was. And I can tell you another story. So Jason Mathis walks in the gym. I had just gotten done with my workout. This was after the contest. And he's like, hey, I'm just trying to start my career. You want to do a little photo shoot? I'm like, sure. And we start doing this photo shoot. And I got in, I think, Muscle Training Illustrated. MTI, if you guys remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That was big back then. And when I got home, I had all these professional pictures from Jason. So what I did was I made this booklet, basically, and I wrote to everybody that was in Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness Magazine, Ironman Magazine, you name it. I wrote to them. And I sent that to everybody's desk. And not one, over the course of the year until the USA 93, not one person responded, right? But I looked at it as an investment in, I'm going to saturate my name until I get to the USA. And in my mind, I was going to go to the USA, make a name for myself. Who knows what's going to happen? And then I'll go to the nationals and start my career. Well, I went to the USA and there was 51 guys that competed. I won the class. Immediately was set up with photo shoots all week. And everybody who was set up, all the photographers were like, and this is, I mean, you got to have a sense of humor about this stuff. Guys were like, hey, are you the dude that's been sending me emails on the letters for the last year? I'm like, yeah, that's me. So they knew I was serious. And I just set up a good rapport with like probably 10 photographers. So the desire to go live there now, because every time I did the nationals year after year, 3-4 months before the nationals, wherever it was at the time, because at the time in the 90s, the nationals were in the same place just for 2 years. So it was either New Orleans, Dallas, North Carolina, I think Chicago. So I got to travel all the time to different places. And whenever the nationals were, wherever they were, immediately I was flying out to California because I already had like 5 photo shoots lined up the week after. And then that paralleled me into guest posing and doing seminars and, you know, and just having fun. I was trying to have a career because I wanted to be a professional. You know, like I looked up to guys like Lee Labrada, Flex Wheeler, Lee Haney. And I just felt like that was a different era of men back then. They were men to me. I don't know how to explain it. They were just different. They were classy. And, you know, I just wish I was like, you know, Lee Labrada, the way he posed, the way he conducted himself, the way Lee Haney conducted himself. And I just wanted to be a professional. And I remember when I got my pro card in 2008, after 16 years of trying, people were like, what are you talking about? You just got your pro card. I thought you were pro all these years. I'm like, no, no.
And
Nope.
back then, so people understand, you won the USA, didn't get your pro card. Nowadays, you come second in your class, and you can get your pro card.
Yeah.
So you should, like, if it was today's standard, you would have had your pro
Yeah,
card much
whatever.
earlier.
Probably 3 times.
It's wild. And your
It's amazing.
persistence in doing that is really good, because a lot of people would have gave up,
Well, again, like, I looked at it as a career, and nothing was really wavering. Like, it was still continuing throughout those years until I decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. And that was around 2003, I think, because I did the nationals. I did the USA in 93, nationals 95, 94, I'm sorry, all the way to 2003 or 2004, I can't remember. And so I just was like, I'm really burnt out, and I don't know how much more I can give. I'm going to open up a business now. I'm going to settle down another way. And so I was sick of eating out of Tupperware. I was just done. And I just wanted to be a normal dude and just have a beer and a slice of pizza. Really, I just wanted to do something completely different. I couldn't be that machine anymore. And then, I don't know, the bug started biting me a little bit. I did the nationals in 2005, and I took 5th that year. And then I took some time off again. I came back in the 2007 Masters Nationals, and it was really weird because my conditioning was wishy-washy, kind of like, and I was completely focused for that. I gave it 100%. I was like back to my old mindset. I was grinding for this show, and something was off. And I thought, maybe this is what happens when you're 40 years old. And really, that's what I was chalking it up to. But that wasn't the case. I actually had, when I got back,
Bell's palsy? Was this
Bell's palsy, and I had Lyme. I had
Lyme disease, right?
Yeah.
And then literally right after the contest, my whole face was paralyzed. Literally right after the contest, like the next day. And I remember spitting into the sink, brushing my teeth, and it was going all over the place. And so I had to deal with that for like 3 months. I had to manually close my eye until it came back. And then got past that and did the Masters Nationals in 08. And I won the Masters, the light heavyweight and the overall. And then my pro career just went in the fucking toilet because, again, I was just so burnt out. Like, I think, like, mentally, I was thinking of, I want to get my pro card, but I never mentally thought about what am I going to do with my pro card.
Right.
So I look back, but I think, Eric, I think I had mentioned this to you in a previous podcast, which a lot of people don't know. I suffered, and I probably should have gotten help for it. I suffered depression after winning the Masters Nationals because my whole career was based on, I won the USA. As a light heavyweight, I took 6th in the USA. And in the Nationals, I went from 2nd to 5th over 9 years. But I was over, like, then the Masters Nationals, 16 years in total. And my whole being, my identity was crushed in my own stupid thinking because I thought my counterparts, my peers were going to think, oh, he couldn't win the Nationals. He had to go to the Masters Nationals. Because if like back in the 90s, when guys would be on the national level stage and they go to their respective country to where they can get a pro card somewhere else, kind of some guys would talk shit and go, oh, he couldn't win the USA here, so he had to go to Italy and get his pro card in Italy. And I didn't understand that thinking, but I knew that. I thought that's what people were going to start saying and thinking. Like, Vinny couldn't win the Nationals, so he had to go to the Masters Nationals and get it. Because I remember when I walked off stage, Steve Weinberger had mentioned to me, he says, what's your first, duplicate this, and what's your first pro show going to be? I'm like, no. I go, Steve, no, I'm doing the Nationals in November. He's like, no, Vin, you got your pro card. Get sick, you're a pro. I'm like, no, Steve, no, I'm doing this was just a warm-up. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. And when I
That's
would
wild.
enter pro, what's that?
That's wild. That's the realization of it.
Yeah, yeah. It was stupid thinking. I was wrapped up in my own.
Yeah, you got in your own head about it.
Yeah, I got my own head. And so when I would do pro shows, I would think I don't deserve to be here. And I probably didn't give it 100% like I should have. It didn't mean much to me being a pro because I felt like it wasn't about the pro card. It was about winning the nationals. I wanted to be the national champion or the USA champion. And that would be more prestigious to me than having a pro card, because when you had the both of them, your shit didn't stink. I mean, you were on another level, right? So it's like, I thought different. I thought wrong. I probably wish I could change that, but I can't. Now now I'm here, right? And
yeah, and now you're winning shows. I mean, it's more than justified your place.
So I'm in my third comeback.
Yeah. And now,
That's unbelievable.
so you've been very vocal about your new goal, which is to compete in the Masters Olympia.
Yes.
Right. And so tell us about the process. I know you're waiting to find out if you're going to get there. Did you have to apply? What's the process? And
so we heard like a while back that this is going to happen, but nobody knew anything, and everybody was like, "When's it going to happen? When are they going to make an announcement?" So when it came out, we said, "Okay, this is the criteria. You have to write a letter of intent. Give us your history in the sport, what you've accomplished, what's your latest, and what is a current picture. What do you look like right now?" So I had to send all that in. And I was probably one of the first ones to send in, because the day it came out on Instagram that I saw all of that, I wrote it that night and I just sent it right in. Like, I'm not waiting for this. I've been waiting for this my whole fucking life. I'm not waiting until April 10th to get my application in. So, I've talked to a bunch of guys and they're like, "Yeah, I'm waiting." I'm like, waiting for what?
For what? Yeah.
What? How are you not excited about this? So we won't know who's invited until Monday, April 24th. But I've been training, and this goes back to what we talked about earlier about longevity. So, and this is how I'm applying my past experience into this. We won't know until Monday, April 24th, who's invited, right? And so I'm looking at the timelines, like how many weeks I have. June 5th is 12 weeks out. Back up into May, I need to take 10 days off from the gym. I need to walk away from the gym. No matter how good I feel, I need 10 days off. I'm going to be 56 years old in April, and I don't recover as fast as I used to. So I need to do things kind of like, hopefully they're in a smart direction. So like currently right now, I'm in my third day of 10 days off. I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow at Bev's because they're having a workshop. I'm going to work out there.
I think Chris is going, right, Chris?
Yeah, I'll see you there for sure.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to train tomorrow there. But other than that, I'm not going to probably walk back into the gym until the following, not Monday, but the following Monday.
And that'll be like an official prep start? Is that?
Well, it'll be because like, I'm not 25 or 35. And I can't, I've been plugging away since I competed in October. So I really, I take 2 days off here, 4 days off here. But when you take 2 days off from the gym, 3 days off, 4 days off, when you're 55 years old, that's like cheating on your diet with one slice of pizza. It does nothing it's not going to do anything, right?
Right.
It's not doing anything. So when you take 10 days off, your joints heal, your ligaments heal, anything that's inflamed can calm down a bit, and nothing negative. Like I was saying before, nothing bad is going to happen to me.
Right.
You need that back off. Yeah. I'm not going to.
Vinny, do you completely take off? Do you do any walking or like any cardio, or is it?
I'll do 20 minutes on a treadmill every other day.
Every other day. Okay.
Yeah. Just to keep me sweating,
Yeah.
But it's not intense or anything like that. It's just like 3.0 speed, 3.0 incline. I did something, change the subject a little bit. I did something different for last year's prep. I was earlier in the year, I had broken my my knuckle in my right hand. I got caught in a door, and it snapped, and I broke the bone, and it was dislocating all the time. And I didn't go full throttle until 6 weeks before the World. I had a lot of stress from the break, and I probably should not have competed, right? So I just lost train of thought. What was I gonna say? I'm having a 55-year-old moment right now.
That's all right. That's all right.
I can't remember what else I was gonna say. Oh, so I want to go backwards, where it's like, I want to do things where what I knew I should have done last year was like take time off, be diligent with making sure that I have proper recovery and everything. And also, like with recovery, like a lot of people are into, getting stretching and massage and cupping and all that stuff. But when your body is beat up and you add that element to it, it's just beating your body up even more. And I found that I do better with those things when I'm taking days off. You can't do them side by side because you never really recovered.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is some recovery associated with deep muscle tissue massage. And
now, if you're 25, different story.
Yeah.
But at 55, I talk to so many guys who are 35, 40, and I'll go, "Oh man, you don't know the pain I'm in." I'm like, dude, I wish I had the pain you have right now. You don't even understand. Sometimes I feel like I'm in an accordion. I'm like squished. And I'm like, if guys will see me in the gym, I'm just hanging from a chin-up bar. I just want to hang. So I can like elongate myself.
Stretch everything.
Yeah.
I was thinking before, you're talking about Masters Olympia and writing the letter, and hopefully they accept you. Obviously, I think all of us here and all of your fans would feel that you've earned it, and then some. Who do you think's gonna get? Who else do you think is putting their names in the hat? I think I just saw recently Johnny O. Jackson.
Yes,
is looking to do it, which obviously adds a lot of prestige. I mean, that guy's an animal and a half, a maniac, and especially the way he trains, a lot of longevity considering how ballistic he trains. But who do you think else is going to be in there? You think like Darren Charles is going to go for it? You think?
I heard Darren training for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we got already another, big names in this. This is going to be pretty serious because I think of the Masters Olympia from way back when Robbie Robinson was winning it. And of course, Vince Taylor was winning it. Lou Ferrigno trying to make his comeback and getting the second places on those shows. And then obviously we had a big gap. And I think the last one really was the one that Dexter won, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward. I know we're all looking forward to it, just to see like a lot of great names going in there that are still, including yourself, that are still going to look great. This is, a pretty serious show. And again, those are only a few of the names that are going to be in there.
So I think what they're doing is, like I said earlier, we've known about this for some time. And I think the reason why they're choosing April 24th, which is 18 weeks out, is plenty of time for anybody who's in shape to get in shape for a show. So I think this is just my opinion. They threw it out there to some of these guys and said, look, at least try. And come April 10th, when the deadline is, just let us know by then.
Sure.
Because for a lot of guys, we hear a lot of times when you get older, you lose your legs, right? Now, I've been very fortunate that I have not lost the size of my legs, and I've actually improved them. And that's because of training and do different variations of things and changing things around that I should have been doing all along. And we were talking about that a little earlier about squats. We can talk about that in a second. But when you get guys that aren't under a bar, and they haven't squatted in 4 or 5 years, and they're just in the leg press and maybe once in a while hitting the Smith machine as a squat for 185 pounds because it just kind of feels like a good pump. That's not the same as what they used to do, right? So when you lose your legs, it's going to take another 4 years to get your legs back. So I think there's a lot of guys that want to do it, but they're going to see if they can train under the same elements that they used to train on every variable, from supplements to food, because it's everything. It's not, it's a lifestyle. So you're going from, you got these retired guys who are eating 2 or 3 meals a day, feeling good about themselves with a small waist, and they're lighter now. That's comfortable. When you're comfortable, it's hard to get uncomfortable again. You guys know. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done. It can totally be done. How much is the prize money for it? How much were these guys willing to do? We don't know. Me, it's prestige. Me, it's like, it's the to the level I never was able to achieve. And it's a bucket list. I mean, I can't turn this down. If I get invited, I think I'll cry, I mean, it's going to be exciting, and to go to Romania is going to be really cool.
Yeah, we're rooting for you, buddy. We hope to see your name on that list.
And we were talking about squats earlier, and I remember, like one day I text Eric about box squats. Remember that day? Yeah, I was going a while back.
Yeah,
and I was experimenting for a long time on box squats, and I would go to this one gym, and I would secretly do these partial squats because I didn't want anyone else seeing me squat 3/4 of the way down, because I didn't want anybody saying, "What the fuck you doing?" And I was like, my legs are actually growing. I'm squatting to a point where I'm keeping constant tension on my legs. So I would use the box, but only as a touch and go. I wouldn't sit as a power lifter, as like what you taught me when we power lifted back in 2014. I didn't sit on the box and use momentum to get up. It was just, I squatted, I touched, and I came right back up. And then I started noticing I'm using weights that I haven't used in a very long time. And, my legs started getting like bigger and thicker, and I'm seeing myself doing sumo squats, and my legs are getting bigger and thicker. I'm doing narrow stance squats, and same thing. Someone told me I couldn't do narrow stance squats because the mechanics of it. I'm like, I'm doing it. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's working. And, Bulgarian split squats.
Those are brutal, man.
Evan said
the worst and the best.
Yeah.
Thanks, Evan.
When Evan tore his quad and he started talking about things that he was doing, and I think I read it somewhere, and Evan had mentioned about Bulgarian split squats, and I was always like, they look stupid. Those are the exercises that the girls do in the corner.
I thought the same thing, man. I started doing them after I tore my bicep and I was rehabbing. I started doing them like on a Smith machine just to do something. Yeah. They trash me. I'm more trash from them than barbell squats.
Yeah.
They are brutal.
And, I noticed that my hamstrings hang lower than they've ever hung from the side chest. When I do back row bicep shots now, my legs are more like 3D. I would never have the muscle mass like the 212 guys. I'm just not built that way. And I have a really weird physique. I'm 5'6.5", probably just a little taller than the average 212 guy. Some guys are 5'6.5", some guys are 5'2". But I don't have that muscle mass this way, right? I have very long arms and I have very long legs. So when I stand next to a guy who's 240, 250, I actually compare better to them than I do to a 212 guy. So, and I've won now 8 Masters Pro shows in the sense of age groups, right? So in the Masters Pittsburgh Pro, I won the 50 and 40. And the Hurricane, I won the 50 and took third in the 40. I think the Legion, I took second in the 212. And the rest of them, the Daytona, I won the 50. The Baltimore Pro, I won the 50, the 40, and the 35. And you add them all up, it's 8 shows. And then the Tampa, I was the only one that showed up. and I won, obviously.
Remember your IG post on that? That was cool. Very, very, very humble post.
Hey,
go about placing first and without
Yeah.
having any competition.
Yes, yeah, but it is what it is, right? And
well,
it's
they,
still,
they all heard you were competing, so they were afraid to show up. And
Yeah, that could be
that's
that
the
too.
story. For those that, if you guys want to go like Google some pictures of Vinny back in the day, they didn't have classic physique, but he was classic physique. Like you would have been the ideal classic physique guy if they had that division back then.
No, unfortunately, I can't make the weight class because when I
Oh.
get in shape, I'm pushing the envelope at 192. And so between like 195 and 197, I'm at my sweet spot.
And what's the cutoff for classic?
185.
Oh, okay.
I'll never get. I'll
But visually, like that when I see the old pictures of you, visually that's classic to me.
But I was 195 back in the day. So
wow, that's wild, man.
Well,
but you
I was
seem
a
much
middleweight.
bigger. Like you seem much bigger now than.
I'm not bigger. I think I have different shape now because I've changed my training 1,000% from what I used to do. I've taken the concept of what you and all the guys at Skiba's gym taught me, and I apply that now. So I found a sweet spot with 5 reps. So I do a lot of sets where I'm increasing each set with weight, but still only doing 5 reps. And then when I get to that one weight, that's kind of like that sweet spot that I know I can get maybe eight reps, then I go to failure. And so I look at it as what they call it today, I guess, as acclimation sets, and then your top set, whatever the fuck you call it. I just call it a warm-up set, right? So it's like my warm-up sets and my last set. So to make it less confusing, it's like I need like 2 or 3 sets as a warm-up to the warm-up,
right?
Because my elbows, my shoulders, my knees, that needs lubricating. It needs to get blood flowing first. And then I can start to say, okay, now if I'm doing, let's say for conversation's sake, dumbbell bench press, I might use 30 pounds for 3 sets of 5. And then I'll go 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 70 pounds, all for 5. And then I'll play around with 80, 85 for probably 2 sets to failure, between 6 and 8 reps. And then that's my work. That'll be that set. And then I might do the same thing on Smith machine, or any other plate loaded chest press. I try to stay pretty close to plate loaded stuff today, only for, because of my age and because of the injuries I've had, but I still get the job done.
Right. We are running almost at time. I know you also took on a new project. You have your own podcast.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about that and tell people where they can find the podcast?
So I am not what's the word I want to use? I have no idea how to do a podcast, so I teamed up.
Well, that's why you get Sean, right?
With Sean.
And
he's
a great guy.
By the way, he helped us setting up this podcast.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Sean's a good dude.
All right, awesome. So I created Masters Muscle, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about not being very comfortable with being with winning nationals and winning the Masters Nationals. And I thought I was going to dive into it, and I was going to do this thing with Masters, and this was going back 2008. And I created Masters Muscle and never did anything with it. Now that I have 8 Masters Pro shows under my belt and a possible invite to the Olympia, I thought I got to make something of this. I got to do something with it. And we don't really have a platform for anyone for the 40 and over athlete. So we are we're going to be doing our 6th podcast next week too. So we're right alongside you guys. Awesome. And it's called Masters Muscle. It's being hosted through SUPS.
Sup Talk Radio.
SUP Talk Radio. On YouTube.
Good content too, especially recently you had Bill Grant, which was that was amazing.
Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We were nervous about that.
Oh, that guy just is incredible. Jose Raymond, of course, who's always just, got so many great stories and just, great personality.
And we just had Ann Sheehan on. And if anyone hasn't seen this, they have to watch this interview. Ann describes her addiction to alcohol and how she competed as an alcoholic and beat it and overcame it. And so anybody out there who has any demons that they're battling, you have to watch this podcast. Ann is an angel, and she just motivates you. And for anybody who's got anything that they're, having difficulty overcoming, you got to watch this podcast. Ann divulged a lot of good stuff, and she's very intelligent and she's very smart. So how she described a lot of things was almost textbook. But she said it in a way where you can understand it. And it was really cool. So it's the Masters Muscle podcast, and it's through Substalk Radio.
Cool. You guys can find that on YouTube.
And also you can find me on Instagram, Vinny Galanti _, and my website. It's going to be updated pretty soon. mastersmuscle.com.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys, man. I appreciate this. It was a great time.
Yeah, this was cool, Vinny. I know you a long time and I heard some stuff that I never heard before. So that was interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you for your decades worth of dedication and sharing it. And we're going to be rooting for you all the way to get accepted. And if you don't, we're going to sign a petition to make sure you do get accepted. So
who's making this decision, by the way?
Yeah.
Who do we need to talk to?
Who do we need to be a guest on this show to convince them?
Now, listen, if I'm not chosen, then that's just the way it's meant to be. And I'll most likely do the Masters World in Pittsburgh a week later. Yeah.
Oh, let's think positively.
Or I'm going to jump off the bridge.
No.
I just kidding.
You find out April 24th, right? For those.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if we're getting an email or they're going to surprise everybody and just throw it up on Instagram, and my phone is going to blow up and go, "Vin, you were invited." I have no idea how this is going to work. It's like I'm in this weird state. It's like when you know about a contest, I start getting the wheels turning with what song I want to use. When I know I'm going to start prep, it's like I'm in purgatory right now. It's like,
yeah,
just waiting.
The date is there, but I can't do anything until I find out. So, but I'm training for it like I'm going in it. I'm changing my nutrition as I would normally do, leading into like an off season, blending into a prep. So I'm where I should be mentally. I feel great. Do I want to take time off to recover and to recoup? No, but I know it's beneficial to the future, and it's all part of the plan. And we'll see what happens.
Cool, man.
Just
We're
gotta
all
pray to
pulling
God.
for you. Yeah, we're all pulling for you, brother.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
Vinny.
everyone.
Great time.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.